وصحبه ومن والاه. Assalamu alaikum. Why does everyone like to sit so far away? I can't even see you guys. I don't know if you're. Can people move up so I can see if you're paying attention, if you're zoning out? Yeah, sure. Plus, it's the prophetic style to sit around closer. Okay, so I think they're setting up the projector, but we can go ahead and begin because we want to cover a few different topics. And then we want to make sure there's plenty of time for question and answer, inshallah. So, Sheikh, نبدأ. No. Okay, so if I cover everything about zakah, like everything that I usually cover, that's going to take at least 1 hour. So I don't want to do that. If you want to see like absolutely everything, you can find the YouTube video online. 1 hour, I speak really fast and I go through every single topic. What I'm going to try and do with Sheikh Mohamad Zahed when he's done with his IT work, and he comes up here, inshallah, we'll just cover some maybe the most important topics, and then we want to open it up for Q&A. So we want to cover some of the most important topics and then open it up for Q&A. So let's just really start with some quick things. Number one, what does zakah mean? Purification. Is there another meaning for zakah? To increase, to grow. Okay, so it's why is it purification? Because through giving zakat, we purify our wealth. And why is it growth? Because when we give in charity, Allah makes our wealth grow. Okay, so that's the purpose of zakah. How is zakah different than sadaqah, like standard charity? What's different about zakah? Zakah is mandatory. It's a certain percentage. Only for specific recipients. You have to pay zakah on stuff other than money. Yeah. So voluntary charity, you can give to anyone you want, anytime you want, any amount you want. You cannot give it, right? You should give it, but it's voluntary. Zakah is mandatory. You have to give it. It's a fixed amount. It can only go to specific recipients. Okay. Shaykhana, tafadhal. So we're not going to go through all that. Okay. So what is zakah? We talked about that. Okay. So that's what zakah is. Okay. So let's ask the next question. Why should we give zakah? It's an order. هذا أمر من Allah. Yeah. So it's an order from Allah. Because we need to purify our wealth. Any other reasons? One of the pillars of Islam. It's not just any fard, it's not just any rukun, it's one of the 5 main pillars of Islam. That's why we should give zakah. By the way, when did the 5 pillars start? When did they come into Islam? Migration to Medina. Any other opinions? Why does Allah say in the Quran, Surah Maryam, He says about Ismail, وَأْمُرْ أَهْلَهُ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ, right? Oh, so maybe salah and zakah existed before the Prophet ﷺ. So from the best that we know, these are things that existed at least from the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Zakah, salah, hajj, all of the pillars of Islam have existed at least at minimum from the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So these things have been there as a part of our religion, or even you could say Christianity and Judaism. These things have been there from a very, very long time, very early. Okay, so it's a pillar of Islam, it's a command of Allah. It also purifies our wealth. Jazakallah khair. It also cleanses our heart. You know, when we give money, it cleanses our heart, makes us be less greedy, makes us grateful to Allah when we give it to people and we see how much they need it, makes us want to give even more. It decreases the gap between the rich and the poor, right? And it circulates money in the economy. So it makes money go around, which is good for the economy. It creates jobs, benefits services. It does a lot of benefit. If you study economics, they tell you want money to always be circulating. And that's the Islamic concept of money as well, as we want money to always be circulating. Okay, so I think that's what this slide, most of you guys talked about these things already. We don't need to go into detail. Also, like if you don't give zakah, the punishment's really bad. Okay, it's a really rough punishment. We don't want to go through that. Okay, so Who needs to pay zakah?
Now, if anyone raises his hand, we'll put his name for the donation for the masjid.
Yes. Nobody wants to raise their hand. Who needs to pay zakah? Those who are mature. Okay. So those who are Muslim and mature. Okay. How about kids? Do kids have to pay zakah? No. Okay, but do kids have to pay? Everybody says no. MashaAllah, everyone's Hanafi here or something, Sheikh?
Oh, I'm treating them to be Hanbali here, but this is an important part, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you say no or
Good.
no?
If they're adult, they pay zakah. Kids can pay if they're wealthy. Okay. Okay. So other than one person in the masjid, nobody thinks kids should pay zakah, huh? This is okay. So believe it or not, the vast majority of scholars say what, Sheikh?
They have to pay zakah.
They have to pay zakah.
So, does anyone here have a saving account for his son? Let's say I've come across this. Like some of them, they saving money for their kids so that when they reach the age of 18, they can they can use this money for graduation for the school, like for university. Anyone here have this? You have it. This is good for you, inshallah.
Yeah. So so the vast majority of scholars, which would be the Malikis, the Hanbalis, and the Shafi'is, all say that you have to pay, that children have to pay zakah. Only the Hanafis, only the Hanafi mazhab, they say the children don't have to pay zakah. So the vast majority say you should pay it. And so my recommendation is on this one, be safe, pay for the kids, right? Especially since three madhabs are saying this. And there's proofs on both sides. So we're not going to here to talk about debate about which one's right, which one's wrong. There's proofs on both sides. And if you take the other position, that's okay. But the vast majority said that you need to pay zakat for children. Okay, so a couple of people said you need a minimum amount of money to pay zakat. So let's talk about that really quick. So you have to be Muslim, you have to have a minimum amount. What's that minimum amount? Oh, and then you have to have that amount of money for 1 year. 1 lunar year. Okay, so the amount is technically it's equal to 20 dinars of 4.374 grams each, or 200 dirhams of 3.0618 grams each. But it made it a bit easier there. And if you convert that, that's equal to about, in gold, about $8,000. Okay, Sheikh, do you follow silver or gold?
I follow gold.
Gold. Okay.
Gold, yeah.
So
Silver, it's make it
yeah.
very difficult for.
Yeah, yeah. So silver would be like $700. Gold would be about $8,000. Now, why are there different amounts? Anyone know why is silver and gold different? So at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the gold and the silver were the values kind of added up to be the same. But what happened since then was the value of gold really kept going up while the value of silver didn't go up as much. Nowadays, both are going up a lot, but for quite a long time, the value of gold continued to go up very high. And so now that leaves the scholars in a dilemma. Do we follow silver or do we follow gold? Right? And so if we actually have silver, like it's our wealth is in silver, then you follow silver. You pay if you have at least $700. If your actual wealth is in gold, you follow gold. Okay? But our wealth is usually sitting in what? Cash, bank accounts, stocks, things like that. So there's some difference of opinion there. Sheikh Zahed and I both, we recommend you follow the gold standard. So if you have $8,000 for 1 year, one lunar year, 354 days, you pay zakah.
Yeah.
Sheikh, anything?
So maybe I can just elaborate this a little bit. So there's something called an nisab, which is a threshold. If you reach this nisab, then you reach this nisab, and as Sheikh Umar said, you hold this nisab for 1 lunar year, then you will be a person who is obligated to pay zakah. So either adult or a young kid, as long as that person possess his own money, let's say a yatim, an orphan, that he inherited, let's say, a big amount of money, or let's say he has $20,000, for example, and this, the money remain with him for 1 lunar year, then he became among those who are obligated to pay zakah. So zakah that according to just to understand what the difference between gold and silver. So at the time of the Prophet Muhammad SAW, the threshold for gold, it was 85 grams of gold, of 24 carat gold. So for example, if you want to know the nisab today, you check what is the price of 1 gram of gold, 24 carat.
Yeah, and this amount up there, that's from today. That's actually
That's
from
from
today.
today.
Goldprice.org from today. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you do, you see this is the price, and then you time this number with 85. You time the amount with 85 because the Prophet says 85 grams. So this is the amount. At the time of the Prophet Muhammad, 85 grams used to be equal to 595 grams of silver. So they were almost equivalent.
By the way, the numbers that Sheikh's talking about, he's saying 85 and 595. What you see on the screen is 87.48 and 612.36. This is just some slight differences that exist. And when scholars have calculated the amount, it's a rounding error. It's not a big difference. Yeah.
So yeah, so if someone, if we say, okay, if you own now 595 grams of silver, it's gonna be how much? $700,
Yeah,
which means
695. So yeah,
which,
$700.
which means anyone who has $700 for 1 year, he has to pay zakah. But I think Allah Alam also, Sheikh Umar, you know, like a hadith Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, when the Prophet ﷺ sent him to Yemen, he told him, tell them that there is a zakah or there is a sadaqah تؤخذ من أغنيائهم إلى فقرائهم. يعني it will be taken from the wealthy people to the needy people. I don't think now like someone who has $700 is considered like wealthy. But he has 8,000 extra saving for 1 lunar year, then yes, it puts him in this.
Yeah, we're exposing you to the differences in case you go to some other website, some other scholar, they tell you it's 700. That's their opinion. We both agree with 8,000, the gold standard, and that I based my opinion on what Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi wrote about this subject. It was very convincing, and basically it's this idea of taking from the rich. Now again, it's due on every adult. So the husband pays his zakat, the wife pays her zakat. Okay. Now if the husband chooses to pay on behalf of the wife, that's okay. They can work that out. But to be technically correct, the wife owes her own zakat on her assets. He owes on his assets. And if you have children that you have accounts for, 529, savings accounts, UTMA, UGMA, whatever kind of account, then you have to subtract from the children from their account. Or again, as a parent, you can say, I will pay on their behalf. You have the choice to do that as long as somebody is paying the zakat on that. Okay. I don't know if we want to go through these. Like when is zakah, like all these charts. Yeah, we can skip that. Yeah. Okay. So I think.
What about if they have a joint bank account?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what if you have a joint bank account? So whenever you have a joint bank account, whether it's for zakah purposes or for mirath, inheritance purposes, or even, may Allah prevent this, for divorce purposes, there always needs to be some sort of an understanding and an agreement on who actually owns the money in that account. Is it really 50-50? Is it 90-10? Is it 60-40? Is it the wife has, $10,000 and the husband has the rest? Or the husband has $100,000 and the wife has the rest? It's something that the husband and wife need to agree upon. They need to agree upon so that they know how to deal with that wealth for zakah, for mirath, for talaq, for so many different purposes.
A question on behalf of sisters. What about the mahr? Have you ever thought of your mahr? Do you have to pay zakah of the mahr or no? What is your opinion?
My opinion is if you have the mahr, then yes, you have to pay. It's part of your net worth, part of your assets. It's part of the cash that you own, and that's, yes, you will have to pay zakat on that.
So maybe inshallah we can elaborate this when you talk about dayn.
Yeah,
probably inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah.
Inshallah, maybe I can add a few things. Type.
Okay, so let's talk about calculating zakat. Okay, so first question: if I make $100,000 1 year, first of all, what's the percentage that you have to pay zakat? What's the zakat percentage? 2.5%. Usually, on most things, zakat is 2.5%, not 100%. Okay, sometimes you have like minerals, agriculture, um, you know, animals, things like that. The zakat is trickier. So if you're a farmer, you have livestock, you're growing dates. One day somebody came to me and asked me so many questions about date farming and zakat on dates. We'll take that offline. Okay, most people aren't farmers here, but on most things that we have, the zakat is going to be 2.5%. And so if I made $100,000 one year, what is the zakat I have to pay? 2,500. You disagree? Okay, so some people are saying it's not on the income, it's on how much I save. Okay, so let Jazakallah khair for that. I make $100,000 this year, or 2024. I made $100,000, and I saved from that 100,000, 10,000. How much zakat do I pay? Okay, okay. In 2023, I made 100,000. People are saying you have to save it for a year. 2023, I made $100,000. Okay, you guys are catching on. I made $100,000 and I saved 10,000 of that. Then in 2024, I made another 100,000. I saved 10,000 from that. How much do I pay? You only have to pay for what you save for 1 year. Okay. See, this is where people start getting all messed up. Huh? 250? How about the savings from 2022? How about the money from 2022? Does that count? Difference of opinion? No, there's no difference of opinion. There may be difference of opinion in the audience, but there's no difference of opinion amongst the scholars. There's no difference of opinion on this. Zakat is not on the salary that you're making. Zakat is not on just what I saved for 1 year. Zakat is on what I've have in savings from last year and the year before, year before, year before. All of that adds up. The lunar year, the 354 days, was just when does the first time I pay zakat begin? The very first time I pay zakat is when I reach $8,000. The very first time in my life I reach $8,000. After 354 days pass, that's when I start paying zakat. Okay? After that, I keep paying zakat. I keep paying zakat. And I don't just pay on what I saved last year, I pay on everything I've saved. Okay? Now there's questions. Yeah, zakat is on your assets. Yeah.
Yeah, because some people they think if I already paid for 2022, some of them I have this question. They take it out from the current saving. Let's say last year I used to have $50,000 and I already paid their zakat. This year I have only $10,000 saving in addition to the 50,000 of the last year. So some of them they say, okay, my zakat is only on the extra $10,000, which is wrong. Anything is accumulated and added to a saving and remained with you for 1 lunar year after reaching the nisab, it's become a zakat that you have to pay. Correct.
Yeah, so the question is, the first year you ended up paying zakat, you had $10,000. So you started with zero, then you ended up with $10,000, okay? You had that $10,000 for 354 days. This is the first time in your life you're gonna pay zakat because you went over 8,000. Then a year after that, you now have $20,000. What do you pay zakat on? You pay on the 20,000. So just you look at the bank balance that you have and you pay zakat on that, right? You basically look at that. But let's get into some more detail on what don't you pay zakat on and what do you pay zakat on. But if all you had was a bank account, that's how you would think about it. Okay, so let's get into that detail. So it's easier to say what do you not pay zakat on, and then talk about what do you pay zakat on. So what do you not pay zakat on? So number one, things that you have that you use, your personal use every single day. So things like your house, your furniture, your cars, your clothing. Alhamdulillah, Allah does not expect us to pay zakat on those things we're using. Because if we're using them and we had to give zakat on that, we'd have to sell the things we're using. And Allah doesn't want to put any burden on us. So the reason zakat is above and beyond that is zakat is on those things that we're not actually making use of. Like the $100 bill that might be sitting in my wallet, right? I'm not using it yet. So if Allah takes a portion of that, it's not a burden upon me. And then on top of that, Allah gives us a year. Why? Because maybe you're a farmer, you're growing crops, maybe they harvest in the summer, maybe they harvest in the autumn, in the spring, in the winter. Maybe we're an investor, maybe we sell something that's seasonal. He gives us a whole year to invest that money. So we can grow that money, and then the zakat comes from a portion of that. So Allah doesn't want to put any burden on us. So the things that we own, that we use all the time, we don't have to pay zakat on. It's only on the extra. We'll talk about the extra on the next slide. But right now we're talking about what don't we pay zakat on.
Yeah, so not
We'll get to rental. We'll talk about rental, inshallah.
so it's not everything you possess, even if it's valuable, it has to be, that zakatable. Let's say you own, you got a present to your wife, $10,000 purse, maybe someone here. So does she have to pay zakat for this $10,000 purse? She doesn't have to, even if it stays with her. But if she put $10,000 inside this purse, cash, then she has to pay the zakat. But if anything valuable, it's not always any valuable thing. They have to, pay their zakat. This is a very important thing, inshallah.
Yeah, we'll talk about jewelry in 1 second. Yeah. But yeah, anything, even if you're like, somebody got upset when I said this last time, but even if you have a Ferrari, but you drive it, you don't have to pay zakat on it. Okay. Like maybe Allah will hold you accountable because you're spending too much money. Maybe Allah knows, right? We know what we should be spending, but you don't have to pay zakat on it because you're driving that Ferrari. Now, if you're a Ferrari dealer who's flipping Ferraris, it's a different story. But we're talking about the things that you own and that you use. So now, also when it comes to jewelry, as a default, there's no zakat on jewelry. However, there's the question that comes up is, what if your jewelry is gold or silver? Okay. So when it comes to the gold and silver in the jewelry, again, we find that there's a difference of opinions amongst the fuqaha. So the Shafi'is and the Malikis say that you don't pay on it. The Hanafis say you do pay on it. And the Hanbalis, they split up. some go with the Hanafis and some go with the Shafi'is, okay? Sheikh, what's your opinion as a Hanbali on this?
My opinion, I follow the opinion that the jewelry of women, that they don't use to, we're not talking about the coins or the sabika. We're talking only
like
on jewelry.
earrings, necklace,
Yeah,
bracelets.
not zakatable. She doesn't have to pay their zakat. This is the opinion that I follow.
Yeah, so Sheikh and I have the same opinion, which is that on the jewelry that you use, even if you don't have to use it every day, if you use it, you go out to a special marriage or something like that, and you wear a special wedding, you're wearing that, no problem, because it falls into something that you're using. Okay. It's different. Yeah, sometimes women have like coins and gold bars and little, bullion, things like that. That will have zakat on it because that's more like money. But when it comes to the jewelry, if you're using it, then there is not zakat. But again, keep in mind that there is a difference amongst people on this issue. That's fine. You can put the jewelry in a bank locker, but you know yourself. You know yourself what the intention is. Are you keeping it there as an investment? Yeah. Or are you keeping it there because you only wear it once a year, once every 2 years, something like that, right? So you have to go with, your intention, and you have to follow that intention and say, what if I have both intentions? What if I have two intentions? I want it as an investment and I want to wear it. So for example, I have a Rolex, for example, that I know the value might go up in time, and I'm wearing the Rolex. Or I have an art piece that I bought that I'm putting on the wall. It's $1 million art piece, and I know it's a good investment, and I want to decorate my house with it. So which would you go with? Anyone know? The easy one? you go with whatever your intention is most dominant. You have to question yourself. Like, is it 50%, 51% that, I want this, 49% that? You just have to you have to question yourself and be honest, because it's Allah who knows.
Sometimes maybe some indicators when you really, your intention become more towards selling it, and like you start putting it in the market, you start asking people around, are you interested to buy Rolex? Then I think here probably you start, خلاص, calculate it as zakah. But if the intention, it's very rare, maybe not. Like, this is, I think, Allah alam, and it's not zakatable, probably, Allah alam.
So I- Once you sell it, okay. So depends. So if you bought the jewelry because you always meant it to be an investment, then yes, you double intention. Double intention. With the double intention, you should ask yourself which one it is. Don't pay. You don't. If you want to pay extra zakat, that's not a problem. What we don't want to do is put a burden on people to have to pay more zakat than they have to. Yeah. So if somebody wants to pay extra zakat, it's never a problem, by the way. You want to give extra zakat, more than 2.5%, 4%, whatever, that's okay. We just don't want to pay, we don't want to tell people they have to pay more than they have to. We don't want to exceed those limits that Allah set.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same. Like if like a jewelry that she's using, she got it in her wedding. So it's still like if her intention is not to save it and then to like as a trading to trade and make money out of it, then it's not zakatable. But if you only wear it like as a jewelry, as Sheikh mentioned, maybe can she wear it once or whatever, still like personal, keeps her in her clothes. So it's not zakah, inshallah.
Okay, so what do we pay zakat on? So this is, again, zakat is on surplus, investable or invested money, like things that you have that could grow over time so that you can invest it, and then zakat comes out of that. So one obviously is currency. If you have any currency at all, whether it's cash, whether it's in a bank account, whether it's sitting under your pillow, whether it's actually gold, silver, things like that, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, whatever, anything that you own that could be considered currency, you're going to pay zakat on that. Secondly, stocks, retirement accounts, 401k, IRA, Roth 401k, Roth IRA, SEP, Simple, solo 401k, whatever, all of those different retirement accounts, and we'll talk about that in a bit more detail in a second. Education savings accounts, 529s, ESAs, health savings account, HSAs. Uh, so anything that has a balance over there, you would pay zakat on. Uh, so stocks includes, for example, stocks, mutual funds, exchange traded funds. It includes employee restricted stock. It includes public stock in the stock market. And then the retirement accounts, when it comes to the 401k, this is where people have a lot of questions about why 401k and why does it have zakat on it. So 401k account or Roth 401 or IRA or Roth IRA, all of these are accounts that we voluntarily put money into. These accounts are then under our name. They belong to us. The balance of it is our balance. It isn't like a pension. Pension, you don't have to pay zakat on. But this is an account that we have. You're a sole owner of the account. It's in your name. You choose what to invest in. You can take the money out. Sometimes there's a penalty, but you can take the money out. You can choose, sometimes you can pull the money out without penalty. Like if you are taking money out for medical expenses, you become disabled, for tuition, even first-time house buying. So and you can take loans against it. So there's a variety of different ways that this is your own account and that you're growing over time as a part of your retirement plan. So it is something that you have to pay zakat on because this is your account. Every year. You pay zakat every year. This is part of your savings. Yeah, please. Yeah, so the question is your IRA account can go up and down. And so what do you pay on? So we said that what happens is the first time you reach Nisab, you reach $8,000, that's the day your Zakat due date gets set, right? And then every year you pay Zakat on that day. So that day you go open up all your bank accounts, you add up all of the amounts. You look at your wallet, you see what's in there. You go check your cupboards. Oh, look, I found some cash. You pay on that, gold, whatever, cryptocurrency, and you look at the value of the stock account on that date. But we're going to talk about stocks in a bit more detail just in a couple more slides as well. But that's the day that you look at to pay the account. We're going to talk about stocks in just a bit more, inshallah.
I just want to, when it's come to 401k, for those they will have penalty in case of they want to withdraw this money.
Yeah.
Do you agree with the opinion that, let's say I have $50,000 in the 401k, if I want to withdraw this right now, there will be like penalty?
I want to answer that in like 5 minutes, inshallah. I'd like to, yeah. Okay. So, so we talked about stocks. Any assets you're holding for investment for capital gains. So if you weren't buying a Rolex to wear it, but you were buying it for investment. You bought jewelry not to wear it, but because you're doing it for investment. You have comic books, you have whatever you have that's held for investment. If you have, okay, so there's a question on real estate earlier, right? And so the question is real estate, art, collectibles, jewelry. Real estate can fall into many categories. It depends on what you're doing. If you're living in the house, you don't have to pay zakat on that. If you are renting a house, the rental is maybe, let's talk about business. We'll come back to rental. Let's talk about real estate in a second. Let's talk about business first. So if you have a business, there's zakat due on the business because you have some ownership in that business. What do you pay zakat on? It's kind of like the same rule you have for yourself. If you're using it for the business, then you don't have to pay zakat. What do I mean by that? So let's say you have an ice cream shop. In the ice cream shop, you have a building. You're using the building as a part of your ice cream shop. You don't pay zakat on it, just like your house. You have a freezer that stores the ice cream. You don't pay zakat on that because it's like your, like furniture. It's like something you're using. You have a ice cream making machine. You don't pay zakat on that. You have the cash register. You don't pay zakat on that. But what do you pay zakat on? You pay zakat on the cash that's in the cash register. So that's why it says cash. It says accounts receivable. Accounts receivable is money that people owe you to a business. So it's like cash. Someone's going to pay you back. So you pay zakat on that. And then you pay zakat on what we call inventory, because that's the thing that you're selling. So you have some milk in the freezer, not the freezer, milk in the fridge. You have some ice cream. You have some flavors, things like that. You add all of that up and you pay zakat on those assets. Okay, so cash, accounts receivable, and inventory. This also translates to a rental property. So when you have a house on rent, it's like the ice cream making machine. Okay, you're using the house to make income. So you don't actually pay zakat on that house that you have for rental. But as the rent comes in, it's going to add to your bank account and you're going to end up paying zakat on that. Okay, so again, you don't have to pay zakat on the rental house, but you pay it on the rent. Now, if your job is to buy houses and flip them, I buy a house, I sell the house, I buy a house, I sell the house. Now the house becomes inventory. And so you have to pay 2.5% on the full value of the house. Okay, so that's treated a little bit differently.
Is it clear, inshallah?
If I have a house which I'm not living in, and I've given it up on rent, and the rent that I get, I'm staying in a rented house, and I utilize that rent to pay this. So then, how does the cut?
The question is, you have a house, you've given it on rent, you take the rent, and you stay in a rented house. So you stay in a rented house, there's no zakat on that, right? Because you don't own that house. And the rent you're paying over there, it's a rental property. So the rental rule applies across the board. Like if you have a house, you're for renting purposes, you don't pay zakat on the house, you pay zakat like basically on the rent that comes in. So that's fine, doesn't matter.
But here there's one point important to understand or to remind ourselves that we mentioned the zakah is for an account of or let's say amount of money that crossed the nisab that you maintain for 1 year, lunar year. So that means if you're getting rent from the apartment that you're renting it out, and you're getting, let's say, $5,000, and then the rent that you're staying, you're paying $2,000, then you have $3,000 extra. Probably you're not using them. They will go into your saving account. It will save for 1 year. Then you will calculate the zakah. But if all of these consume, then it's not actually,
Does- At the end of the day, if you're renting a house and you have rented a house, you're not paying zakat on any of that. Whatever your bank balance is, you're paying zakat on that. So it just gets automatically solved. No complication. Yeah. The question is, do you pay zakat on land? So my view is, if you're buying that land as investment, then you will pay zakat on it. But if you've bought that land because you want to build a house on it for yourself, then you don't pay zakat on it. How do you calculate zakat on the land? Is you find out what the value of the land is. Usually you can go to some sort of a website. It'll tell you what the land value is. Like in Pakistan, you have zameen.com. So you go and you put in, like, I have 2,000 square foot, whatever land in this area. It'll give you a value, and then you take 2.5% and you pay that.
yeah. I just want to mention one thing in regard to inventory. Inventory, it's mean like for example, do I have to pay zakah for the bottle of water that I have? If I have, let's say, a coffee shop, all right, so the water that I have, I use them to make tea and coffee. So this bottle, I'm not gonna pay zakah for this inventory, because I'm using them to make final product that's gonna be the commodities that I will sell it. But if my shop is selling bottle of waters, this is my shop, then here I will calculate the inventory that I have in my shop, like how many bottle of waters do I have. If the value of selling reach the nisab for when the day where I'm paying zakah, then I will pay the zakah of these.
Okay, so I said agriculture, livestock, hidden treasures. I don't think anyone's, hidden treasure is a good problem to have, but the zakat is the calculation is different for that. Okay, so if you have hidden treasure, it's not 2.5%. Okay, things that we can subtract. I want to go through this quickly because we're running out of time. So if you have rent that's due in the next 30 days, you can subtract that. You have bills that are due in the next 30 days, credit card bills that are due, taxes that are due, mortgage payments, student loans, anything due in the next 30 days you can subtract. But what you don't get to say is, my house is on a mortgage, I have $1 million due in the next 30 years, so I'm not going to pay zakat at all. No, it's on the things that are due soon. Otherwise, you can also say, in the next 30 years, I'm going to make 100,000 a year, so I'm going to pay zakat on that, right? If you're going to do that, you have to be fair both ways. So it doesn't make sense. You only look at the things that are immediately coming due in the next billing cycle, basically. Okay, so calculating zakat, how do you do this? Add up all of your assets, okay? Subtract the things that are not zakatable, like things that you have for personal use. We talked about that. Subtract the deductions, like the bills that are coming in the next 30 days or whatever. See if you meet nisab. Do you have $8,000? If you do, then you're going to go ahead and pay zakat. Otherwise, you're not going to pay zakat. Okay? So you take that and you multiply it by 2.5%. But I want to come back and talk about stocks. Stocks are complicated. And there have been different fatwas on how to give zakat on stocks. And we'll get back to the 401k. There have been different fatwas on how to give zakat on stocks. In the 1990s, the scholars said, if you buy stocks for capital gains, you pay 2.5%. If you buy it for dividends, then you don't pay 2.5%. You treat it like a business. So you go to the balance sheet of the stock, of the company, and you look at cash, accounts receivable, and inventory, and you pay zakat on that. Okay, so that's how the scholars qualified it. They said, either you're buying stocks for capital gains, or you're buying stocks for dividends. That was true in the 90s and maybe the early 2000s, but as the stock market evolved, people less and less think about stocks that way. They don't think capital gains and dividends. They buy stocks and they think, look, I'm just buying it as a business. Now, so nowadays, the way that people think about it is, am I buying the stocks because I'm a trader? Trader, not Traitor. Trader. Am I a trader? I buy a stock like a commodity and then I sell it the next day. I buy it and I just want the price to go up by $2 and I'll sell it, or go down by this much and I'll do this. And so people think about sometimes stocks like they would think about bottles of water, okay? Or they would think about gold, or they would think about something else, or phones. So it's treated like inventory, because I'm buying it and selling it like inventory, commodities. And so if you're a day trader or you're a trader and you're buying for the short term, then you're going to have to pay 2.5%, because that's how you pay zakat on commodities. 2.5%, because you are a trader. If instead you have an investor mindset and you think of the stock like a business, and you're looking at the EBITDA and you're looking at the ROE, ROA, or it doesn't matter if you're not looking at that, but you think of the stock as a business and you're owning a fractional share in the business and you're investing for the long term. So this is the fatwa that myself, Sheikh Joe Bradford, Mufti Faraz Adam, like almost everyone I know who's in the finance industry, we all agree on looking at stocks this way, as either you're buying as a trader, you pay 2.5%, or you're buying as an investor. And our condition is you're buying it for a year or more. If you're buying it for a year or more, you're thinking about it like a long-term business and you care about the profits. And yes, the stock price might go up, but it goes up because it's making profits. That's how a stock price works. Stock price is considered to be the future discounted cash flows of that company. For those that are finance nerds, it's a discounted cash flow model. The stock price is based on future profits of the company. And companies don't give dividends so much anymore. What they do is they do cash buyback, the stock buybacks. So when they're doing stock buybacks, the stock value goes up. It's another way of returning profits to the shareholder. But anyway, without getting into the complications, the short answer is, if you're buying stocks as an active investor, trading it, then you're going to pay 2.5% on the market value of the stock. If you're going to buy it for the long term as a passive investor, 365 days or more, you're going to end up paying 2.5% on cash, accounts receivable, and inventory. Now, nobody wants to go to the balance sheet and calculate cash, accounts receivable, and inventory. It's too much work. It's too hard. So what do? There's a website, zakat.zoya.finance. You go to the website, you put in how many stocks do I have? Thank you. You put in there, you say, I have 100 shares of Tesla. I have 200 shares of Walmart. Whatever stocks you have, I have this many of this much of this, and you select long-term, it will calculate for you. By the way, if you're a long-term investor, your zakat ends up being like 10%. About, like, I invest a lot in a fund called SPUS. It's the Sharia compliant S&P 500. It's 11.4% zakatable. So you pay 2.5% of 11.4%. It's less than 0.3%. You don't pay 2.5%. You pay 0.3%. So that's how zakat works on stocks for the long term. Now the question goes back. The Sheikh was asking, how do you deal with 401k? I think there's two answers to how you can deal with 401k. One, definitely your 401k is a long-term investment. So it falls into that long-term category. So one thing you can do is just go to zakat.zoya.finance, put in whatever stocks are in your 401k. It will calculate the value for you. That value is going to be, because it's something less than 0.3, 0.5, something like, it's a very small percentage, just pay that. That's one option, okay? Another option is you can take a look at the entire balance, take 2.5% of that, then you calculate what penalties you would have to pay, and you subtract those penalties. That's another way to do it. And so that's another way to pay zakat. Now, this method is the lower zakat method, by the way. And I think this is the preferred method, is you go to zakat.zoya.finance. You don't subtract any penalties, but you end up paying on this. So again, just to repeat, if you're holding stocks for the long run, whether it's in your 401k or it's not in your 401k, it doesn't matter. Just go to this website, Put in how many shares you have of each type. If you're long-term, select long-term, 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 hit the calculate button. Whatever number comes out, just pay that. It's not going to be a very large amount. And this is part of Islam wants us to be investing in businesses. It wants that money to be circulated. And the zakat burden when you own a business, when you're investing, trading, using that money is less. So this is part of the wisdoms, the hikmah, the maqsad behind zakat and why Allah legislated it is, yes, to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor. Yes, it's a pillar. Yes, it makes us less greedy. Yes, it makes us more grateful. Yes, it multiplies our wealth. Yes, it purifies our wealth, but also it causes us to invest our wealth, which is one of the things that Allah wants us to do. Is Islamically, we don't just want cash sitting around, we want to be investing it.
So this website is gonna make a huge difference when it comes to 401k.
Yeah,
Right?
big difference.
Big
Yeah.
difference, because I don't know if you understand that what it's saying, that you know, if you are having business, this business, let's say it's worth $1 million, all right, the business itself, but it's generating, you know, $10,000 of profit, for example, and this 10,000 is what remain in your, you know, balance for one lunar year. So you're gonna pay, you know, 2.5% of the $10,000, regardless to the value of the business, right? The business itself, as like as we mentioned, the place and the machine that you are using, all of this. So what they are using is they are using the 401k same as, yes, they are money, but you are using them as the ice cream machine to, you know, to what is called to yeah, appreciate, to get more profit. So it made a huge difference, because you're not anymore you know, paying for the entire let's say $50,000 or $100,000 you have from 401k, after deducting, let's say, the penalty and the tax is gonna be maybe 35%, almost 40, around 40, yeah, maybe 50. So you're gonna pay $50,000 on the $50,000. But at this on Zoya probably end up by paying maybe $100 to 100.
Yeah, it ends up being about 10% of the total value. So 10%, 2.5% times 10%. So it's like less than 0.3%. Like, yeah. Okay, we have some material on who to give zakat to, but I think the main thing we want to say is zakat cannot just be given to any cause and randomly. It's not like charity. You can't just give it to whoever you want. So be careful about where you give zakat. Ask Sheikh Zahed or someone else, like, where can I give zakat to? And then, yeah, I don't want to go through every of the categories, but also just one more point, that it's preferred to give zakat to people who are close to you. What does it mean, close to you? Both ways. Your family. So, well, one question is, so can you give zakat to your family? Can you give zakat to your kids? Anybody? Why not? Because they were your responsibility. You cannot give zakat to your children because they are your responsibility. You can't give zakat to your parents because they're your responsibility. You can't give zakat to your wife because she's your responsibility. You give to cousins, nephews, uncles. Yes, find those people. They're your family. Give them zakat first, right? So in your family, for the people who are eligible, give them zakat first because they're your family. They have more right upon you than anyone else. So some scholars say it's mandatory. Some scholars say it's recommended that you start with those that are close to you. By the way, can the wife give zakat to the husband? Anyone disagree? He isn't selectively Hanafi, you know. The Hanafis say the wife cannot give zakat to the husband. Why? Because the wife's going to give it to the husband and the husband's going to spend it on her. They say, what is this? This is cheating. Like, she's just giving him money and he's using it on her because she's his responsibility. So it's a good, you know, you can see how they're thinking about this. For the same reason, you can't give zakat to somebody who, like, you can't say, like, oh, my gardener, you know what? You charge me $200 a month. Instead, can I give you $100 and I'll give you 100 in zakat? No, that's cheating. You know it's cheating. You know you're trying to pay him through that. So we can't do that. So start siblings you can give zakat to. Yeah. So you have family, Then your local area. So if Americans aren't giving zakat in America, who's going to give zakat in America, right? No one from Palestine sending money here. We're sending money over there. So taking care of our local area, and then other causes. Okay. How about grandparents? Grandparents fall into the same category as parents. So Islamically speaking, generically, when we say parents, we actually include grandparents, great grandparents, great great grandparents. All of that falls into the same ruling. And when we say children, then your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, they all fall into that same ruling. Okay. And then I think we'll just jump straight to questions. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so the question is, do you go local first, then overseas, family? What's the order? Here's the order I would encourage personally, and then Sheikh can comment too, is I would start with family, whether they're local or overseas. If your family is in need, they have a right upon you in a way that no one else does, right? And so number one, your cousins and your nephews, all those people, make sure they're taken care of. Number one. Then what I would do is I would try and make sure the local causes are taken care of. Because again, they have how we say our neighbors have a right upon us, right? So that circle goes outwards from us. The neighbor that's right next to you, to the right of you, to the left of you, in front of you, then the neighbor, diagonally opposite you, then the next one, then the next street, then the next block, then the next city next to you, then the state, then the country, then so kind of think about it that way. Is we're trying to take care of those people who are closest to us because that's where Allah wants us to start, both from a relationship standpoint, maybe even a friendship standpoint, from a geography standpoint, in all of the ways that we can define the word qarib, close, someone who's close to us. In all of those ways, I'm not giving you a hard and fast rule. There isn't one. But the scholars have discussed this, and like I said, some scholars have said that if you have someone who's close to you or a family member who deserves zakat, you have to give them zakat first. Yeah. The need is overseas, but also, so there's need. So what happens is a lot of people, they ship all of their zakat to another country. They might send it to Syria, Palestine. No doubt those causes need our zakat, but then who's going to take care of the homeless in Anaheim, right? Or those who have the money, maybe not even the homeless, but those who have money but they need zakat, they need their debts to be taken care of, something like that. And so we want to start with local and then go overseas. If you decide to split it up somehow, that's fine as well, but at least give some locally, inshallah, because that's. Yeah, the question is, if there's a local charity that gives to the poor and needy, does that count? Yes, it counts. So I think locally, for example, we have Uplift, right? We have ICNA Relief does local, right, Abdullah? So ICNA Relief does local, and 100% of it goes into zakat recipients. So that's the other thing to watch out for, is when you give to a charity, are they giving 100% into zakat, or are they taking 10, 15% for overhead? So I think ICNA Relief is one that passes it all on to the recipients. Uplift is another one, 100% they pass on to the recipients. IIOC also has.
IOC, we don't take.
We don't take it and give it?
Yeah, we don't take.
Okay.
We try to send it all the way to other organizations, to the Uplift and other, yeah. Because like zakah money, it's supposed not to be prioritized according to the opinion that we followed. Has to, I don't know, Sheikh, has to be prioritized and be given to people that are fall in the categories that Sheikh Umar mentioned. So sometimes if you have money and you want to pay the zakah, and let's say they are raising funds to build a masjid, I do prefer, if alhamdulillah we have a wealthy community that people are able to donate and raise this masjid, it's better to always use it directly to people that are in need, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, or to go to organizations that they tell you we use the entire money to the zakah. So
Yeah, the thing about zakah is Allah defined 8 categories of people that can get zakah, and masjid is not one of them. And some people justify it under the category of, they say, fi sabilillah, fi sabilillah. And there's a big difference of opinion in fi sabilillah, but a lot of the scholars, at least the people, the mutaqaddimin, the early scholars, and specifically people like Imam Malik, they would say that in fact, Imam Malik said there's no difference of opinion, that everybody agrees that this is fighting in the way of Allah. This is jihad. Fi sabilillah doesn't mean any random cause, it means jihad. Now, there's been difference of opinion since then, but at least the early scholars, they preferred to say that that's jihad. So it's 8 very defined categories of people where Allah said, give to these people. And so that's why we follow that for zakat, because it's very clear in the Quran.
Spread out the cup, 65 days within the year. Like 2025, if I want to keep it and wait for some events or anything to take place, can I keep it?
Yeah, so the question is, can you pay zakat in increments or installments? Can you spread it out over a period of time? And what the majority of scholars have agreed upon here is that you can do that, but you shouldn't do that with zakat that has become due. What you can do is start paying zakat early. So zakat that becomes due next year, you can start paying early now in advance. But don't delay it beyond the date it's due. It's almost like a final due date. So that's what the vast majority of scholars said. There's a difference on this, but that's what the vast majority have said.
yeah.
The question is, can we allocate the money for zakat and pay it slowly? Yes, you can allocate it and pay it slowly, but you're allocating next year's zakah, not the one that already became due. It's already due, then pay it right away.
Yeah. We have a question from the sister side. Yes, well, I had the same issue to the same question. Yeah, okay, go ahead, Sheikh.
So when it comes to inheritance, mirath, yes, there is zakat on inheritance. The question becomes, how exactly do you pay it? So there's some difference of opinion there. So the Hanafi said, as soon as you receive the inheritance, you add it into the rest of your money, and if your zakat due date comes, you pay it right away. The other madhahib, I think, largely said, Sheikh, correct me if I'm wrong, that you wait for 354 days after.
Correct.
So there's a difference of opinion between the madhahib, but it does become due in inheritance. Now, the way zakat is supposed to work in its very original, pure form is that when you have 40 sheep, you pay 1 sheep as zakah. And then you have, 100 kilograms of gold, you pay 2.5 kilograms from the gold. So from the sheep, you take the sheep. From the gold, you take the gold. From the silver, you take the silver. From the cash, you take the cash. That's how you pay zakat. And so if you think about it from that perspective, if you've inherited $10,000, right, even if you don't have a source of income, there's $250 of zakat due on it from that $10,000, technically speaking. You can pay it from somewhere else, but it's actually due on that 10,000, right? And so now we've simplified zakat to say, well, you add it all up and you pay it this way, but originally it's actually due on this amount do this, on this amount do that amount do this, but now wealth is so much more complicated, we add it all up. And so that zakat is going to be due on that $10,000. And yes, if you don't have a source of income, the $10,000 becomes $9,750. And then next year it becomes less than that. And the year after it becomes less than that. So over time, the zakat is just going to take all the money away. Which is why that we find, and this is why the way one of the proofs of why zakat is due on minors is the Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said in Sunan al-Tirmidhi that what do you do with the wealth of an orphan? He said, فَلْيَتَّجِرْ فِيهِ. He said, basically trade it or invest it. Now, Imam at-Tirmidhi himself comments, and the people of hadith have looked at this hadith and said, you know what, possibly this is not a statement of the Prophet ﷺ, but it seems like it's a statement of Umar radiallahu anh. So anyway, regardless if it's a statement of Umar radiallahu anh or a statement of the Prophet ﷺ, for us, we know that it holds the same weight, right? Umar radiallahu anh is a representative. He was one of the Khulafa Rashidun. And so we take the same statement, which is what he's saying is, trade this wealth of the orphan. Why? It's what's interesting is what he says afterwards. He says, trade it because if you don't, then zakat is going to eat it up. So he says zakat is going to eat up the money. So if I made that statement, invest your money, otherwise zakat's going to eat it up. It's going to consume it. Somebody's like, hey, what are you talking about? You're trying to do zakat avoidance? You're trying to avoid zakat? No, this is something we learn from the sunnah. From most likely Umar radiallahu anh, that we should be investing that $10,000 so that it grows to maybe 10,300 or 10,500. And from that we pay 250 zakat, then it's not going to be so impactful. So money should be invested so that otherwise money will just get less and less and less and less with zakat. Yes, that's exactly what's going to happen.
I have a question here from Brother Amin.
There's a program called Need Housing where basically you want to buy a house without riba. You put the money in a big pot, and that pot is being used to buy other homes for other people, and then you wait in line. And sometimes it takes 2-3 years before it's returned to buy the house. So the money that's basically sitting in that pot of money, is that zakatable?
Yeah, so Amin is asking about Amin Housing Cooperative. Yeah? Sorry, it's too late. Couldn't resist. So Amin Housing Cooperative, what they do is they're actually, for those that are not familiar with it, it's a home buying financing organization. I was going to say company, but it's not a company. It's a co-op. It's actually a co-op. And what they do is they, first of all, investors put their money in there into a pool of money. So it's a fund. You put your money in there. Then they take that money and they help other people buy houses using a declining co-ownership scheme, musharaka mutanaqisa. So they're helping other people buy houses. But the way they do it is when they help someone buy a house, you buy a part of the house and you rent the rest of the house because you don't have the money maybe to buy an entire house. So maybe you buy 20% of a house and you rent the other 80% of a house. So because your money, your investment in Amin's Housing Cooperative is going towards owning 80% of a house, which you're renting out to somebody, the investment into Amin will be treated like a rental house. And therefore, you will not be paying zakat on it. So not only are you going to make 4 or 5% a year in investment returns on it, inshallah, but also you don't have to pay zakat on it. There's no zakat. As they will pay dividends, and as that money comes back to you and it joins your bank account, and when you pay zakat on your bank account, then you will be it will be taken care of.
I just want to mention one thing, one misunderstanding when it comes to zakah. The sister, because I came across this question yesterday. I got a question from one sister. She said, I have some saving in, let's say, in Egypt, and I don't have any other source of work, any other source of income. And the money that I have, actually, I'm not investing in it. So I put it in a saving account. I'm not taking any investment, let's say, interest or any profit out of this money. So she said, should I have to pay zakah for this amount of money? Because I don't have any other alternative. And this is my money, I'm saving them. So the answer, as Sheikh mentioned, yes. As long as, regardless if you're using this money or not using it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, didn't, when it comes to zakah, it's very straightforward. You have money, stay with you, for 1 lunar year, regardless your age, puberty, less than puberty, whatever, baligh, not baligh, you have this money, reach the threshold, the nisab, then it is zakatable. It is zakatable after you deduct what, the Sheikh mentioned. So I assume that the sister probably, I don't know if she's been paying the zakah for the previous years that she has. So this is another issue. I always advise also when it comes to paying zakah in advance, it is a good, strategy. Let's say you know that at the end of this year, you're gonna pay, let's say, $1,000 of zakah. So, you can, before, because when the zakat due, it becomes a debt. Zakah is not something that you get a reward like a charity. Zakah is mandatory. Like when let's say I have $10,000 and then I have to pay $250 zakah. The $250, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It's not your money. That means holding it in your bank account, you're holding from, you're keeping others' money in your bank account. This is not yours. So giving them is giving the ashab al-huquq, getting back to their right. So when there's a zakat due, the $250 you have to pay it off. If you pay in installment in advance, that means you are delaying the money of these people. But in advance, yes, you can do that, but there's one condition. If, let's say, someone came and asked for a donation, and then I gave him, let's say, $100. He said, I need help, I have problems, I said, take this $100. And then after like 5 minutes, I said, you know what, why didn't I calculate this $100 from my zakah? Okay, khalas, I'll calculate it from my zakah. Is this permissible? No, because the intention wasn't there. So the moment you pay this 100, you have to pay it with the intention that I'm paying it as zakah. As a zakah. You pay it as a zakah, alhamdulillah, will be counted as zakah.
But by the way, your intention has to be you're giving zakah, but the recipient doesn't have to know they're getting zakah. They just have to be eligible for zakah. So they have to be below nisab, but you don't have to tell them, this is zakah for you.
You don't have to tell him, huh?
Yeah, because sometimes
do you take zakah?
Yeah. You can ask. You can ask. If you don't think they're going to be offended, you can ask. And you can. Yeah, so here's the thing. If it's okay to ask someone and say, hey, look, I'm just wondering what your situation is. I'd like to give you some money. And then some people, they just get offended. Some people, they get offended, their egos get impacted, or they just don't want to. And so for those people, you don't have to ask. You can try and take a guess and see, are they eligible for zakat? You can tell, like, especially the easiest category here to understand is the gharimin category. It's the category to understand, like, you want to understand, like, if somebody has a debt, they have a very large amount of debt that's due, and they don't have the money to pay for it, then they're eligible for zakat. That's maybe the easiest category to understand. You have to make an intention prior to or during, like while you're giving it, not after. You can't change your intention afterwards. It's like praying like four rak'ah, like nafil, and then coming back and saying, oh, that's my zuhr. Like, no, it wasn't. You can't change it. You can't backdate the intention. Can you make an intention that everything I'm going to give from now on is zakat? As long as the people you're giving it to are zakat recipients, yeah, you can do that. You can say, hey, I'm always going to be giving zakat, and I'm always going to make sure they're eligible to receive zakat.
Maybe we can have 2 more questions, and then let's see if the sisters, did they have any questions from the sister side? No questions. I have only 2 questions. Let's see Abu Ayman, and then I'll get, yes.
So the question is, somebody started with $10,000 of gold. Halfway through the year, they somehow got a debt or something, so it took them below the nisab. How did they end the year? They end the year with debt. Okay, so they ended the year with debt, right? So they're below the nisab at that point. Doesn't matter. What you're looking at is the total balance of assets and liabilities, right? So gold minus debt, you're fallen below nisab at this point. So if you've fallen below nisab on your zakat due date, you're not going to pay zakat.
But he's not paying the debt. Yeah, and he has the saving.
Mhm.
You're saying that, say, the gold of $10,000, you still have them.
Oh,
The
is the
debt
debt due?
is, how much will you pay for the debt when the zakah is due? Are you gonna sell the gold and pay?
So there's okay. So let's go back to what we said earlier. Okay, debt is of two types. There's debt that's due and debt that's not due. The debt that's not due. Okay, that's a good question. Yeah, if it's a long-term debt, right, then we're not going to worry about that. We're not going to worry about that. Like the debt's due in a year, or the debt's due in 5 years, or 10 years, or whatever, right? If the debt's due next week, then yes, now you have a problem, right? So now you have to sell the gold anyway, right? Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
You do pay zakat. You do pay zakat. Yeah. If you're in debt, in long-term debt, you still continue to pay zakat. Okay.
I just want, maybe, what do you think if, let's say, you want to pay zakah for that, but let's say the debt that you have, I'm asking you to pay me, for example, $50 a month. So, and let's say the zakah that you have from this 10,000 mathalan is 250. So maybe you will deduct the $50 from the amount from the 10,000, and then you will pay the zakah with the remaining balance. But what if, let's say, the lender, the one who gives money, he is willing to take whatever amount he has. Let's say if you give me now $250, I'm gonna take them.
Yeah.
I think Allah.
It just depends on what your intention is. Are you going to pay the debt back or not?
Yeah, if
Right.
if you
So
say
you're-
now this $250, either I pay for zakah or I can return my debt back. So probably here you don't pay zakah. Allah, this is my.
Yeah.
If it's end up, you have to choose, like, if either. But if, let's say, the one who give you the loan, he's not asking you immediately to get, and he's okay with the pay zakah.
pay zakah.
That's true. We still have one more question, and then maybe.
There's one question.
Yeah,
there.
sisters.
Yeah, I know. I'll tell you my answer on that one. The question is, if you have a balance sitting on your credit card that's cash back, that you haven't taken the cash, but it's sitting in your credit card, my answer is yes, you do pay zakat on it. Because it's as good as cash. If I called the credit card today and I said, convert it to cash, they will immediately convert it to cash. So yes, you do pay zakat on that. Alhamdulillah that we get cash back. May Allah bless us all with this opportunity to get cash back so we can pay zakat on it. You know, first world problems, alhamdulillah.
Don't be happy with the cashback. The more cashback you get, it means the more money you have.
So the question is zakat for children. Okay, so the question is, okay, first of all, the children have to be Muslim, right? They have to. So then the question becomes: here's the fundamental difference of opinion. The reason that the Hanafis have said that the children don't pay zakat is they say acts of worship do not become obligatory on a person until they reach puberty. Okay, so the Hanafi view is that a child does not have to pay zakat because that child hasn't reached puberty. And so zakat is only due on those people who have reached the age of puberty. What the majority say, the Malikis, Hanbalis, Shafis, what they say is actually no, the zakat is not on people. The zakat is on the money. So whether the money belongs to an adult or the money belongs to a child, that zakat has money, that money has zakat on it. So you have to pay the 2.5% in either scenario. Now, in terms of the actual implementation in the sunnah, you find, you find a hadith that talk about paying zakat on the wealth of an orphan, for example, the one that we just quoted earlier. And there's other hadith about that. So there seems to be some evidence that say that children should be paying zakat because it's due on that wealth. And so, of course, the child's going to be too young. They don't know that zakat is fard on them. They don't have the mental, intellectual capability to think about zakat. So what happens is it becomes incumbent on the guardian of that child who's guarding that money to pay zakat for them. Invest their money, pay zakat on their money. But we're talking about the money that belongs to that child, right? It's sitting in their bank account, or it was gifted to them. It's their inheritance. Whatever it is that child's money. And so the majority view that the children do have to pay zakat.
So,
They have to be. They have to have nisab. Yes.
so inshallah, we just ended with last question, inshallah. Yeah.
So somebody's saving for Hajj, she's going for Hajj this year. So some Ramadan that she has to pay on the money that she's saving.
There's a two-part answer. I'll answer the first part. I'll let Sheikh answer the second part. Number one, is zakat due in Ramadan? She normally pays in Ramadan. I just want to make it clear. Zakat is not due in Ramadan. Zakat and Ramadan are not linked to each other at all. There's no relationship between those two. I know people like to pay in Ramadan because they remember Ramadan. And some people believe it's more virtuous to pay zakat in Ramadan. But honestly, if we don't see that from the Sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. If it was more virtuous, Prophet ﷺ asked us to read more Quran, pray more. He gave us other good deeds to do in Ramadan. He never said pay zakat in Ramadan. And if the Sahaba would only pay zakat in Ramadan, the whole system would fall apart. Because there were people whose jobs it was to go collect money all year for zakat. What are they going to do all year? They're just going to be busy in Ramadan, and 11 months they'll do nothing? And the poor and the needy, do they only come out in Ramadan and in the 11 months there's nothing? Right? And so zakat has to be something that we do all year. And so the best way to do it is when someone asks the question, can I pay it all throughout the year? Yes, give all throughout the year so that we benefit, the community benefits throughout the year. And I do not believe there's any extra reward to giving zakah in Ramadan, because it goes against the maqsad of zakah, which is that you should give it all year. So just want to make that point that a lot of people have aligned zakat with Ramadan. That's okay. But just to be clear, zakat is due when 354 days have passed since you first had nisab, and then 354 days and another 354. It keeps staying on that date. It does not change. You want to answer the question on Hajj?
Yeah, if she's saving for Hajj, for marriage, to buy a masjid, to whatever she does, if the amount of money remains for 1 year, 1 lunar year, she has to pay zakah. Inshallah. By the way, inshallah, this month, inshallah, you see me and Sheikh Umar a lot here, alhamdulillah. For every Thursday, we are having a program to, preparation for Ramadan. So today it was zakah. Next week, inshallah, we are having Dr. Aboud. Yeah.
Oh, for those that don't know Dr. Aboud, you do not want to miss his session. MashaAllah. This man is full of energy and passion for the subject of health. And so he's going to talk about all the life hacks, the tricks on how to not get headaches during Ramadan, how to be hydrated, what should you do in suhoor so that you are drinking the right things, having the right nutrition, when to work out, when should you lift weights or run or whatever. He's going to talk about sleep, how do you get enough sleep, how do you optimize for the sleep. So he will talk about all of the things to keep us physically healthy, fit, and in prime shape for Ramadan. If you haven't met Dr. Aboud, please come. You're going to enjoy his session. He's very knowledgeable. Everything is based on science. He's a doctor. He's very science oriented. Definitely don't want to miss his session, which is next week, inshallah.
Next Thursday. Yeah, same timing, next Thursday. Inshallah, tomorrow, Friday, I have a lecture for Ramadan. It's going to be fasting beyond hunger, to explore it seems, Dr. Roy, you get hungry in Ramadan. Huh? So the goals of Ramadan, inshallah. And then next Friday, after the session with Dr. Becky, we have very nice session also with Imam Tom, I think Fuchin. This is how they? Fuchin, inshallah. Here it's going to be Ramadan your path through resilience. Make sure, inshallah, so every Thursday, Friday, empty your schedule, come here, inshallah. Jazakum Allahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum.